Dr. Mariluz Garcia. She's currently the Washoe County Commissioner of District 3, and she's also the Executive Director of Dean's Futures Scholars. She is a first-generation college student, born and raised in Elko. We won't hold that against her because she's now moved to Reno. That's great. I love Elko. And she spent over 20 years experiencing work with low-income first-gen students. And we are just so honored to have her perspective here as we talk about pathways to getting into healthcare careers, and STEM programs, and kind of just like the monumental impact she's made over the careers of hundreds, thousands of students over time, and now the impact she's making in the city. So Mariluz, thank you for your time.
Gracias. Good morning, buenos dias. I am so grateful to be here. My name is Mariluz Garcia, first-gen college student from the glorious Elko, Nevada, and so glad to be here. I've been here almost 30 years, and the community's changed so much, but my heart fills when I see some young people in the room, so you'll be hearing from many of them in a little bit. What I'd like to do this morning is kind of take you through a couple of things. First, just some basic introductions. I'm going to define what first-generation college student means. We're going to dip into some of the barriers that a lot of first-generation college students commonly face. And then last but not least, I'm going to actually have a lot of the students who are living this come up and share their own personal experiences. And if anybody knows DFS, I have this tendency to volunteer a lot of people, and I call it the tap on the shoulder, but I popped into the room the other day and I was like, you know what? Do you guys want to co-present with me? And they're like, no, absolutely not. And you should see their faces when I asked them. But there's something really powerful about getting asked to do things. And as practitioners, no matter what field you're in, I encourage you to remember two things that I'm really biased for, I believe in strongly, is that you tap people on the shoulder whenever you can. And if you think you're intervening at the right time, you're wrong. Intervene earlier, start younger, have those conversations from the beginning. And so with that in mind, I'm going to really just kind of go through what I wanted to present with you guys today. I don't have a PowerPoint. I was emailing Dr. Sanchez. I was like, are you doing a PowerPoint? I brought boxes, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do with these boxes in just a moment. But first, I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Sanchez. She has an incredibly heavy lift at the university. And it was a couple of weeks ago, I walk in with all my bags, and I look over and I say, hey, Victor. And right behind Victor pops out Dr. Sanchez, her little head. Boop. I'm like, good morning. And I poked my head over the shoulder, and what she was doing that morning in our DFS lounge was she was mentoring one of my staff members on how to do quantitative analysis. And to me, that was just such a beautiful thing that we have such a talented, smart, hardworking Latina that many of my students look up to. But she's never too busy. She'll always take the time to mentor and ask questions. She's a great teacher. I'm sure Hug High misses you greatly. But can we give it up for Dr. Sanchez? So first generation college student, DFSers, you can't answer this. Okay, so you keep it. What do you think is the most commonly used definition for a first generation college student? Anybody non-DFS related? Take a stab. What does first generation college student mean to you? Is this on? Are there people behind that? Oh goodness. I'm gonna stand back here. First generation, there's no right or wrong answer. What does it mean? Can I pick on you?
You can pick on me.
Okay. What is first generation college student?
It's someone that comes from a family who no one before them went to college. Yeah.
Any other responses? Guesses? So he said nobody ever before them has gone to college. Any other variations to the definition first gen? Yes, sir.
Nobody has completed college.
Nobody's completed college. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with that. Nobody's completed college. And that, there's a lot, you're right. So I give you Thank you. And you're right, so thank you. In higher ed, we commonly use the definition, neither parent has earned a bachelor's degree. But there's layers to that, because raise your hand if your parent got a bachelor's degree in a different country. And what we know is that sometimes those skills don't transfer, the academic content, the social capital, all of the things, cultural capital that you learn in institutions elsewhere don't always transfer. And so even though I've had a DFS student who had a parent that was very highly educated in Mexico, but when they came, he was doing like custodial work. It just didn't transfer. And so when we talk about first generation, you have to kind of peel back the layers and really think about it. But what we use in the world of educational research is typically that definition that neither parent has earned a bachelor's degree. So now that you have successfully defined what a first generation college student is, I'm first gen. My sister, Melissa, is the one that paved the way. And I tell this story a lot. I was in high school. I was wrestling with my brothers in the back of the minivan, and we're driving to San Francisco. And I had never been to the Bay Area. I'm from Elko, so the closest thing I had was like Salt Lake, Boise, and Reno. That's all I knew. And here we go. We pack up the van, and we're all in the back of the van fighting for like 8 hours. And we get to this beautiful city, and we start unloading these boxes. And I'm like, what are we doing? And my sister was moving into the dorms. She was going to college. And I had no idea what she was up to. I just knew she was really smart, really driven. She was doing some crazy things. When she was like 16, she got recommended for this and then went to Russia. And I mean, she was just incredible. But I was still absolutely clueless about what she was doing and what she was accomplishing until I had this like developmental shock wave that went through me. And I'm like, she's leaving our hometown. She's going to this city and she's going to go to college. Are you kidding me? And so we unload her stuff. I see the dorm and I'm like instantly like in awe of this experience. Like what a beautiful, and you know, she went to University of San Francisco, super expensive private Catholic school. She got a lot of financial aid. It didn't cover everything, but she was off to a great start. So I drive back with my brothers going, man, we're like chopped liver over here. We got to get our stuff together. And I really didn't know how. So she's gone, she's far away. This is before the day of cell phones and internet. And so I would talk to her on the phone, but my hermana was like off doing great things. So I'm back in Elko, just kind of a middle child troublemaker, my brothers and I'm just kind of going through the motions. And so even though I had somebody in my family that was paving the way for me to get to college, I'm still like, it's way over my head. And so it took a long time, and I'll kind of go into the story in just a moment, for me to really understand it. But one thing I did have is that my dad, even though he only had an 8th grade education, even though he came to the United States as a sheep herder, even though he was working 6 days a week, I knew that my dad wanted us to do well at school and be successful in life. He didn't know anything about higher ed or even high school for that matter, but he knew that I had to go to work. He understood work. Raise your hand if you had a pops at home or a mom's at home that just knows work. Yes, okay, common thread. And my mom, she immigrated from Mexico when she was 5. So she actually grew up in the educational system in the United States. So she had a little bit of an advantage compared to my dad. And so she really wanted us to graduate high school, and she was starting to really try to encourage us for something after high school. She really didn't define that for us, but those seeds were planted very early on. My sister's off to college, and here I am. So I'm going to kind of go through some of the barriers that I faced. So Anna, come on up. You're going to be little Mariluz, okay?
I'll try my best. These are the boxes, girl.
Box together for me as best as you can. Okay, so in elementary school, I had a teacher that, pull over the lids back, just hold it together, yeah. I had a teacher that would blatantly tell you where you were in terms of intelligence. And you know how she did it? She would call on the best reader first every time. Brad Jensen, still know him to this day. I still give him a hard time about it. Like, damn you, Brad. Why are you so good at reading? So she would call on Brad first, and then there was Joey Ballou, and it was mostly boys, honestly. It would go through like the boys, and then it would start hitting the middle of the road, and then I was towards the bottom. And I was just like, man, I am not a great reader. And it was only like one time of the day where you're holding a book and you're each reading a paragraph. But that moment in my educational career, like, tore me up. It just beat me down. And I felt this like tremendous lack of confidence in my educational, my academic ability. And so here's Anna, but she's Mariluz. She's got this janky box. This is her self-worth when it came to academics. And this started in elementary school. So she's carrying that box with her. So now Anna is going into middle school, and these were spicy years. Let me tell you, my poor mom and dad, I put them through hell. So last earmuffs. Wow. It's gonna go on the side. Okay, so here's middle school. And what I faced in middle school was this like cultural identity crisis. I am a light-skinned Latina. I grew up speaking Spanish. My mom's from Mexico. My dad's from the Basque Country. I go to my friend's house. My aunt is their maid. I'm like, damn, what am I doing? Like, where do I fit? I had this pressure. Am I going to hang out with the Latinos? Am I going to hang out with the white kids? Do I show my culture? Am I going to show that I'm proud? Do I have to kind of stifle that just to blend in? I had all this like teenage angst in middle school, and it affected me tremendously. Even though I struggled in reading and I wasn't at the top of my class in elementary school, I got to middle school and my grades tanked. I was on the honor roll for a minute, and I got kicked out. My mom kept the letter where I got rejected from the honors program. It's in a binder somewhere. She's like, Mija, you really blew it this time. I'm like, I know, so why are you preserving that memory? So this is my identity, my cultural kind of middle school crisis that I face. So now I'm struggling with this thread of insecurity on how well I do in school. I don't know how I fit in. And then I moved to high school. Now, I was very active in high school. I had a hard time focusing. I had a lot of attention issues. And who can help me with this box? Yeah. I started realizing that I was easily distracted. And I'd be like, score. And then part of it was because I was doing a lot of sports, basketball, volleyball, track and field, soccer. I tried everything, and thank you. So I don't know if I've never been diagnosed with ADHD. Dr. Fernandez, that's for our next conversation. But my mom always said, Mija, like, why are you so disorganized? Why are you forgetting things? You're dropping the ball. And I would miss like big deadlines, and my grades would plummet, and I'd have to dig myself out of a hole again. But I was really, really struggling with attention issues. And the real kicker was, and this is where I totally forgot to tell you, your arms are getting tired though, right? They're empty. Okay. So here's where it gets tricky, because little Mariluz is trying to find her future, right? She's like trying to look forward and keep her eye on the prize, which is high school graduation at the time. Well, now we are starting to see some barriers happen. So you can turn your body. Okay, can't see, not much. So this was my test taking skills in high school. I got the lowest ACT score. It would have put me in remediation at UNR, but I'm so old that it was like pre-remediation days. Terrible test taking skills, but there I go off to college. And now Anna, I know you're trying to focus on high school graduation, but how does your viewpoint feel?
Pretty blocked, obscured.
Pretty blocked and obscured, and that's exactly how I felt. So thank you so much for being a good sport. I'm gonna put that down because there's more barriers and I didn't realize how big those boxes were. Thank you. We're gonna use those again. Fast forward, I'm at the University of Nevada, Reno. I am broke. I have no car. I am 4 hours away from my parents. I live in an all-girls honors dorm, which I had no idea how I was even going to get there and why I was even there. I didn't feel like I belonged. But the financial burdens really start to play out here. So now you've got academics, you got the cultural identity, you've got the attention, test-taking insecurities. Now throw on being broke. So I struggled through my undergrad. It took me 5 years to finish. My brother and I actually walked across the graduation stage together, which was a beautiful thing. I decided, you know what? I'm terrible at the school thing, but I kind of like it. So I'm going to keep going. And so I decided to go to Colorado for AmeriCorps because I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. And I go to Colorado to work for this program called I Have a Dream Foundation. And that's when I learned I wanted to be a school counselor. I was like, I want that guy's job. So I come back, I apply for grad school, I get in grad school, I'm looking around classroom just like this. And I'm like, they are coming from the business world. They must be so much more successful than me. They have already had 2 careers. They must be more financially secure than I am. They came from a really prestigious undergrad and they must be way smarter than me. So what this obstacle and barrier is imposter syndrome. And it was there all along, but it really, really hit me my graduate year, my master's in school counseling. So there's that barrier. And this whole time, I'm still trying to look ahead and keep my eye on the prize and stay focused and motivated. But these things are just stacking up and they don't just go away. That damn 5th grade teacher ruined me. Like she really, Miss Boucher. Damn. I need to go to therapy about Miss Boucher. But it was like, I am 44 years old and I still remember this elementary teacher that just tore me up. And so that's just the power of words and the power of your environment. It's really hard to undo that damage. Even though I had loving parents, even though I had great teachers, I had supportive, folks in my life. But it was in grad school that I met my first mentors. My sister was my mentor, but this is like the first mentor that I was like, wow, this person is really going to help me navigate life. And it was Bob Edgington. He was a retired school counselor from Glendunga, old white dude, go figure. But he tells me, there's this program and they're looking for a graduate student. And it's called Dean's Future Scholars. I'd like for you to come work for our program. So he hires me. I go upstairs on the 4th floor of the College of Ed. There's 5 of us crammed in a little tiny storage closet in the dean's office. I'm in my graduate program. And that is like the moment when my life changed. And I got through the imposter syndrome. I finished my master's degree. I don't know how. It took me 3 years. And then I keep going. So now I've been a school counselor in the district. I'm still working on Title I schools. I'm not going to even try to fold this. My PhD comes along, and I now am in the midst of some of the hardest coursework, statistics. Dr. Sanchez made me cry many times, statistics. And I'm sitting in the College of Ed, and I get a phone call that my son and daughter are available to be fostered and eventually adopted. So I'm in my PhD program. I go from 0 to 2 kids literally overnight, having to find childcare. And now I have all these family obligations that I just never dreamed I would have. And so the family obligations on top of the imposter syndrome, on top of always the financial struggle and juggling multiple jobs, just piled up and up and up. So who can relate to at least one of those barriers, right? Many of us in this room. And so the next kind of portion is I'm going to turn these barriers into opportunities. So now let me pick on Jorge. Come on up. Okay, Jorge is a 6th grade student. So I'm gonna have you stand over here. Jorge's in sixth grade. He's not really paying attention to what's going on. What elementary school did you go to?
Didrikson Elementary.
Okay. Didrikson was not quite a Title I school. DFS started in 2000 and we started with 10 Title I school. So we would find a Jorge through a recommendation process of the school counselor or principal, and we would say, hey, we're looking for a first generation college student from your Title I school who is showing some opportunity, but may not know how to get there. And this was probably not Jorge, because I know his family and I know his mom is wonderful. But let's just pretend you don't know what your path is. So you get tapped on the shoulder in sixth grade to be part of the DFS program. So you come to campus. So this is you, come right here. So he comes to campus, he has his first orientation. Many times this is the first time he's ever stepped foot on campus. We say, hey, you don't know what's gonna happen to you right now, but what your life is about to change. You're gonna come to this program and we're gonna feed you, we're gonna bus you, we're gonna educate you, but mostly you're just gonna have fun. And most of the kids Jorge's age go, there's food? Free food? Okay, we're in, right? So Jorge comes and then he starts between his 6th and 7th grade year, he comes to a summer program where he meets all of you in the crowd. So there's 5 kids from Didrikson, there's 5 kids from Glen Duncan, there's 5 kids from Libby Booth, and all of these Title I kids come together at summer and they all have these big, bright expressions because they don't know what the heck's going on and they are in a completely new environment. So now Jorge finishes his 6th grade, he loves it, had a great time, now he's moving on to 7th grade. So he goes into middle school now, 6th grade's in middle school, so now he's in a different building and he gets linked up with a mentor. So Mariluz is his mentor. I'm checking in on him twice a month and checking in on his grades, seeing how things are going at home, making sure that, if there's extracurriculars, he may invite me to come watch one of his soccer games. I'm like, let's go. And so 7th grade, he gets the mentoring. And then that summer, in between 7th and 8th, he comes to another summer program. Still fun. Enrichment, running around, exposure to STEM, lots and lots of field trips, museums, down to the river, roller kingdom, whatever, just anything to get them out of the household. He comes back to 8th grade, more mentoring. He's with the same mentor. So I'm seeing him like, Jorge, man, you were so organized in 7th grade. What happened? What's going on in 8th grade? And he'll tell me why, and we'll work through it. And then that summer, between 8th and 9th grade, I'm like, Jorge, you got to come to campus, but the fun is over now. Now you're going to take math because STEM is really, really important to your college success. So Jorge takes Algebra 1 because he took Math 8 in middle school. But if he takes Algebra 1 the summer before he enters 9th grade, that's going to set him on a different trajectory. So he comes to campus, he knocks that out of the park. He loves math. Do you love math?
I do like that.
Okay. He gets a great grade in Algebra 1 and he goes off to his high school. What high school did you go to?
Spanish Springs High School.
So he starts off 9th grade at Spanish Springs High School, and now he's going to be taking Geometry 1 too. So now he's ahead of about probably half of his classmates, and he is already on that trajectory. So mentoring continues. College student comes, checks in with them, huge presence. He now is a freshman and invited back to the summer campus. This time he's got Algebra 1, Geometry 1, 2. Now what are you going to take?
After Geometry 2, Algebra 2?
Algebra 2. He's in Algebra 2. So he knocks that out with us over the summer, more mentoring during the school year. He can access free tutoring when he needs help because now his courses are getting more rigorous. And so he's done pretty much with his math because we don't want to push him too far up the math pipeline. So he doesn't have, we want him to keep taking math in high school. So now we're going to offer him biology 100. Now we're dipping our toes in the dual credit realm. So I don't know that Jorge at this point, he started off loving math. Now he's taking Bio 100. This is where it clicks. He's like, you know what? I kind of want to be a doctor. And I'm like, huh. And it came from exposure to a college class he liked. Maybe the professor is really cool. Maybe he connected with some of the classmates. Maybe it was just a good experience. But just him being exposed to the dual credit class in a university setting has now been the hook. So Jorge does that, does well, comes to his next year in high school. Now he's taking Psychology 100, dual credit. So he's taking care of both his high school required courses and his college credits. And so he graduates successfully from his high school. He's now looking to the future. And we say, Jorge, you're not done yet. We're going to give you 2 college classes at the University of Nevada, Reno this time, because his dual credit was in TMCC. So now he's at UNR taking EDU 111 and taking another course of his choice the second semester. Plus, we're going to give him a paid internship. And that internship can be on the university campus or it can be off the university campus. So he is now in the youth college internship program. And you do the math. He's got 3, 6, 9, 12 college credits under his belt. He's got employability skills. He's got a job to put on his resume. He's now made connections on campus with his office so he can say, hey, so-and-so, I now have social capital with you. I can call you when I get stuck or when I need to know what to do. And most importantly, he now has a job. They loved him so much during his internship that they have granted him his job his freshman year of college. And he's a University of Nevada, Reno student with all of these things. And what it has done is it's removed those barriers or helped chip away at some of those barriers that he had before we even saw him as a 6th grader. So I'm going to stop there. Let's give Jorge a round of applause. Thank you, Jorge. So you can kind of see the pathway, and I had someone pass out our, did you already pass out our? Okay, so you can kind of see a more detailed explanation of our educational pathway, but I'm very, I just believe, and we have the data to support it, that this is the most effective approach. We often wait too late, too long to try to intervene, to try to provide opportunities, and by then so much has already taken place, and in many cases, the damage has been done. And they've lost sight of that goal and their aspirations. The world can be a very challenging and hostile place, and it gets progressively more and more complex as we move through. So that's a little bit about the DFS program. And the last stage before I move into the next segment. So as the DFS students, if you can kind of make your way up, I'm gonna have you kind of stand in the line right here. There's the alumni factor. So we start in the 6th grade, we stay with them through elementary, middle, high school, and college. Sometimes they go on for their masters, sometimes they go on for their PhDs. We do not let them out of their sight. And we don't kick them out if they have a rough year. We don't kick them out if they get kicked out of the honors program. They're part of a family, they're part of a network, and they have value. And so we see that even despite the barriers and challenges that many of us face, they are worth it. They're worth the investment, and this is what keeps us going. So I'm gonna hand over the mic. What they're gonna do is say their name and what their dream job is, what they're studying, and what their ultimate goal is. And then I'm going to have one last activity, and then we'll open it up for questions. So we'll start right here.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Carrillo Lopez. Currently, I'm a pre-nursing major, and my dream job, hopefully nursing, or later on I might switch, but who knows. And I'm a freshman here at UNR.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucy Mesa. I am currently a 5th year at UNR. I am studying neuroscience and public health as a double major, and then a double minor in addiction treatment services and human development and family studies. And my ideal dream job would be either to be a family medicine practitioner or an OB/GYN.
Hi, my name is Sia Kidane. I go to UNR. I'm double majoring in public health and pre-nursing. And my dream job is to become a travel nurse and specifically be like an ICU or travel nurse. But yeah.
My name is Yesu Cano. I'm dual majoring at UNR in biology and Spanish. And my dream job is to become an orthodontist.
Woo! Hi, my name is Anna Segura. I'm a 3rd year at the university studying biochemistry and molecular biology. And I'm on the pre-med track to hopefully become an ICU or ER surgeon.
Great.
Hi, my name is Maria Perez. I am currently majoring in biology, and my dream job is to be a pediatrician.
Hi, I'm Erica Chavez. I'm in my final year at UNR, and I'm currently in nursing school. My dream job is to be a NICU nurse or in the mother-baby rounds, like postpartum labor and delivery.
Hi, everybody. My name is Guadalupe, and I'm a freshman student at UNR. I'm currently double majoring in biotechnology and microbiology, as well as double minoring in psychology and biochemistry. My end career goal is to be a physician scientist and hopefully focus on oncology, cancer, and blood studies. So.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ricky Seha. Currently, I'm majoring in public health, minor in business administration. I'm on the pre-med track. And my dream job or aspirations or future career would be a neurosurgeon or a cardiovascular surgeon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jorge Monge. I graduated from UNR with a degree in biochemistry and molecular biology, and I'm currently a fourth-year medical student at UNR School of Medicine applying into pediatrics.
Yeah. Okay, I invited a phenomenal group of students so that you can hear lived experience about what this is all about. Because when you look at a brochure, it can be fancy and glossy and shiny, but you really don't know kind of the pain and angst and struggle and barriers that happen below the surface. And so that's what I wanted to spend a little bit of time on today is for us as practitioners, as scholars, as researchers, to really never lose sight of that, because there is at any moment, a time or an event in life that can derail you. And we, as a program, know that. And so we create this network and safety net as familia. And I didn't mention, but one of the most important things that we have that a lot of programs don't have is the space on campus. Space can be really challenging, but we have a 24/7 DFS lounge that is full of food, couches, free printing, TV, blankets, you name it. And I've seen many of these folks passed out, sleeping, pulling all-nighters. The UNR police used to get called on us a lot. Now they know who we are, they leave us alone. But we have created this little hub. And at any point in the day, any day of the week, you'll see students just working their tails off. So that space is a really critical thing. So I talked about some of the barriers, and I'm going to focus on 6 categories. And so what I'm going to have the DFS students do is, for example, we're going to start off with financial barriers. So I'm going to read off the barrier. If there's something in your experience that you faced that dealt with that barrier, all you're going to do is take one step forward. And then voluntarily, if you would like to share a little bit about your specific scenario with the group. So it's totally optional. You don't have to speak up if you don't want to. But I know you all have some stories because I've heard these stories. So we're going to start off with financial. So this is, the need to support your family. This is your brothers and sisters, your aunts and uncles, your parents. You are having to either pitch in money to help them, or you're pitching in time to help them. This is when you have to juggle multiple jobs, not knowing where to find grants and scholarships. This is you being scared to take out loans. And because you're afraid of taking out loans, you end up getting a credit card, and then maybe you rack up a little bit too much debt on your credit card. Or something happens in your family and you have medical debt you're all trying to fight through and dig yourselves out of. You may have a car that breaks down and now your whole family has transportation issues, or there's housing instability. So if you have ever experienced financial barriers throughout your college career, please take a step forward. Okay. And if you would like to speak, I'll just pass the mic.
Mariluz knows this very closely as we had to deal with this over the summer. But it is something difficult to balance academics and the financial commitment you have to your family. Over my high school or going into college, I've worked sometimes 3-4 jobs while going to school. I think my toughest semester was 21 credits and 3 jobs. And somehow I survived. And luckily I did have the support of financial aid and scholarships that I was receiving. But I think going to that realm where you're first gen, you're not sure, you don't want to take out loans, you want to pay for this on your own, and you're not sure how to ask for help. You build these struggles on your own, but at the same time, it's systematic. And so it's really difficult to reach out and be real about your situation when you're like, who has gone through this? Look at us, we're here, we've struggled, and yet we're still afraid to speak up. So.
And you guys can step back.
So I've been working since I was 11 to help the bills in my family. So that never really stopped when I got to college. I now work 4 jobs, but you know, just there's no financial aid for your family. So no matter how much the school can help me, I always made a promise to myself to never let my parents pay for my own college. Because of the struggles that we had when we were younger. So that was my own personal experience. It's a lot better now. But back then, it was a responsibility that a young Yasu had to tackle to help the family meet ends meet.
Anybody else? Okay. And an important thing to note is just because you have a first gen doesn't mean y'all come from a low income background, right? So it's not a homogenous group at all. So there's varying levels of financial barriers within that. So the next category is academic barriers. So if you were a student at any point in your academic career that you had experienced that moment of low self-esteem in terms of your coursework, where you didn't have access to AP or dual credit courses, you didn't feel like you had the college readiness, you had low test scores, you didn't have a high school teachers particularly that really presented the content with academic rigor, and you couldn't get academic help at home, you can't get your homework help from your parents or your siblings, and you may have felt a lack of institutional support at your university setting. So please step forward if you had any academic barriers growing up. Okay, that's everybody. Who would like to speak on that? Yeah.
So I was pretty similar to Mariluz. Going into middle school, I felt a really heavy culture shock just because I did come from a Title I elementary school. And then thankfully my parents were super encouraging me to pursue my education. So they put me into a charter school here in Reno. And that experience was rough for me just because I still struggle with math occasionally. And in college, I still feel that insecurity compared to my classmates about the experience and the knowledge they have behind their math. And going into middle school with everybody, I was like, I don't even know my fractions. And these people are doing calculus at some point even. And so that insecurity really affected me and still has a really large effect on me. But having this community and the summers with my mentors really felt reassuring that I belonged in these spaces, even if I didn't feel like that all the time.
So for my experience, sorry, I get emotional really fast. Me too. You guys were talking about your story, I was already crying in the background. So I feel like for my experience that has altered my brain chemistry a lot was when I was a sophomore.
You're okay.
My mom, she battled with breast cancer, and oh my goodness, guys. She battled with breast cancer and it set me back a lot in schoolwork. I ended up turning into things that were obviously bad choices. I was a mess my sophomore and my junior year because I didn't know how to go about it. But I feel like those years have impacted my life a lot because I didn't put a lot of effort into school. And definitely my teachers would just think, oh, I was just another bad kid that would just do whatever I felt like doing. But in reality, I was going through a lot of things at home. So I feel like to this day, the information that I would have retained during those times definitely didn't stick with me because I was too busy doing something else or didn't really care about school as much because it was on the back burner. But I do feel like that event in my life has altered absolutely everything from my sophomore year till now. And I feel like now I'm relearning all the basic things that I was supposed to learn during that time. which is challenging for my career as well. But I mean, we just gotta look forward.
Anybody else?
That's okay. Sure. I think maybe a lot of people can relate to this as part of like being first gen, going to college for the first time, or even going into graduate education. A lot of times it kind of feels like you go past your parents in terms of education. My dad only went up to 5th grade in Mexico. My mom, she's a high school math teacher, but it feels like you very quickly kind of get past the like where they can help you with your schoolwork. You know, you present something to them, they're like, they've never learned this, and now you have to learn it by yourself. And so I feel like for so many of us, that's that experience in college, experience in higher education, just kind of feeling like alone in a sense, because you don't have that support from your family. Like they're there for you emotionally, they're there for you, like loving you, but they can no longer help you with your academics. So I feel like for so many of us, that was that big struggle, especially with me going to medical school. I tried to explain something to my family, you know, and they have no idea what I'm talking about, which is sometimes fun because they like to hear about things that I'm doing. Sometimes they're kind of afraid when I tell them, oh yeah, I dissected someone today, and I like cut them open. Scares them a little bit too. But it's kind of that feeling of kind of being the first in your family to go to college, the first in your family to go into higher education is so terrifying because it really, you know, being that trailblazer, being that person in your family, having that support behind you, but no longer having that support ahead of you, which is why I feel like mentoring with junior scholars or with other mentors out of my life are so important, because there were so many moments in my life where like my family was there for me emotionally, but they couldn't help me academically. So I had to find those other mentors among my friends, among people who are maybe a year ahead of me in college and in medical school who could really help me through it, because I love my family, but they don't always know what I'm up to. So I always have to explain it to them. So I think that was kind of one of the biggest challenges I had, especially in medical school.
I think something that we can all relate to is we came from the Title I schools that we were recruited from. So I went to Florence Drake Elementary School. That was a Title I elementary school. I then applied and got into the magnet program going to Mendive. That was, I think, like one of my first culture shocks. I came from a school, majority Hispanic. I saw people that were like me. Going to Mendive, not only was it academically rigorous, I also saw myself being one of 3 kids of color at that school. I was low income. I didn't have the resources like they did. They had tutoring, they had these extracurriculars. And so going into high school, I went to Sparks High School, again, a Title I high school. The resources that Title I schools have compared to other schools it's absolutely like ridiculous the more you look into it. And so like even ACT scores and stuff like that, we didn't know anything. They were like, oh, you're going to take a test in February. This is going to decide your financial aid and everything like that. But they didn't tell us that. And so I think now when I mentor, I tell these kids this and that, and counselors are really busy. And so they're always struggling to keep kids on track to graduate. Whereas those kids who are wanting to accelerate, wanting to take ACTs, wanting to apply to out-of-state schools, they're kind of left behind and they're first gen. And so luckily I had my older sister who went to college, but now I'm in this in this stage in life where now I'm looking at post-grad parts, and no one in my family has done that. And so now it's a new barrier. So you go from like all these barriers in different stages of your life, and it doesn't stop, but you keep going.
All right, the next category is social. Difficulty adjusting, social isolation, not feeling a sense of belonging, imposter syndrome, or struggles with mental health. A lot of our students nowadays struggling with anxiety and depression. Please take a step forward if you'd like to speak about social barriers. Anybody?
So I started nursing school this year in January, and it was a lot because in my cohort there's 96 students, but I'd say there's no more than 10 people of, of the Latino background. So it was just a lot. Like, I just felt like I didn't really belong there, especially because there was a lot of people that, they have parents that are nurses, or they're RTs, like respiratory therapists, or they're like the providers. So it was just a lot because I went in like knowing nothing. Like I knew I wanted to be a nurse to help my community, because I feel like it's just, just seeing my parents, they don't want to get the healthcare because there's not someone to listen to them. So I feel like I wanted to be that person for, like in my clinicals, there's not a day that I don't go where I don't have to translate for someone. And it's just like, it just makes me so happy because they're happy that someone is there to listen to them. and provide them the needs that they want, you know? And so I feel like a lot of people in my cohort, they do it just because they have family members in medicine and they know that they belong there. And it's just been a struggle for me to see like, I belong here too, you know? So just kind of a sense of belonging has been an issue throughout my career in nursing school currently.
So yeah. So I had a big culture shock here since I'm a freshman. You know, so I came from Worcester High School where the majority is it's a Latino school, it's like I want to say like 90% Hispanic. So compared to UNR, it was kind of crazy not seeing a lot of my people there. I'm like, wait, what happened to all of us? It was like a class of like 500 graduating, and only like 20 of us from Worcester came to the school. So it's kind of like weird not seeing my people, you know. But it's all right. We're slowly adjusting. Thanks to DFS, their office is a safe place for everybody. So I feel more comfortable since then.
I feel like coming to UNR, I was like, the biggest thing I struggled with was like learning how to study and also finding like that social group that I could hang out with. Like I had my group of friends that like went on to college and we all graduated together, but like towards the middle, you kind of see like fallouts happening. So I feel like the biggest struggle that I had was like finding a group of people that were like in my major and I could hang out with and like we can like study together, but also go out socially. And like as I went on, like my mental health kind of like went down. I couldn't find that group of friends. And then as like I got on to like more higher classes, I was just kind of struggling a bit. So I felt like lost and I kind of felt like I was stuck in a hole. But as like I went on and like kind of just put myself out there, you just have to like just do things just to do it, even though you're going by yourself. You start to find those people and like connect with them, and it just helps you a lot better and like mentally too. But, yeah.
Great. We've got 15 minutes left. I'm going to leave some time for you guys to ask them specific questions. You can see that they're all in the medical fields, and I know you're probably curious about certain things, so I'll definitely leave some time for you. The last three categories are cultural, family, and career. So I'll just kind of bundle them together, and then you guys can kind of speak to whatever resonates with you. So on the cultural front, you could be like I was, struggling with your cultural identity and fitting in, whether or not to like let go of what you grew up with and your family traditions to try to blend and adhere to those mainstream norms. You could have suffered from serious language barriers growing up bilingually or in some cases trilingually, racism, discrimination, the pressure to succeed for your community or your family or your friends. I know I dealt with a lot of the gender norms. My dad was super strict, you know, Hispanic dad, and sending me off to college was a big thing. Some of you have tremendous amount of family obligations. Some of you have kids. And some of your parents don't always know the importance of higher ed. They knew the importance of graduating from high school, but to your point earlier about them really not knowing what you're doing on a day-to-day. I don't know if any of you have felt a sense of guilt for succeeding while some of your friends didn't, or your neighborhood, childhood friends didn't. And then for the career category, not being exposed to a lot of different career options, or, you know, just the fact that, you know, maybe your mom works in housekeeping and your dad does landscaping, you're not going to have a lot of personal connections out in the workforce in other careers. And then being scared to network and perhaps not really knowing what the workplace setting is. And this is a big one for later in life, not knowing how to negotiate for yourself in terms of pay and salary and all of those benefits that come along with the job. So does anybody want to speak to any of those barriers that I mentioned?
I think something that wraps up a lot of those answers to those questions is learning that your path is your path and that yours alone. You cannot compare your path to the peer next to you, to the stranger next to you, to your friend. They don't know what you've gone through. You don't know what they've gone through. And so I think there is so much competition and gatekeeping when it comes to the pre-med world that it's so harsh sometimes. And me and my friends, we've had conversations about this, and we absolutely dislike it. Whether we find a resource, we want to share it with one another. And I think when it comes to the college experience, I'm glad that although it's towards the end that I've learned that, and that I can't compare my 5.5-year degree to someone's 4-year degree or someone's 10-year degree or whatever they're going to do post-grad, because whatever I do is initially for my happiness in my life compared to someone else's. They have completely different situations, goals, atmospheres. So create your own path. That's my best advice.
So after graduating high school, I just thought like going into medical school would just be something super easy. You know, all I gotta do is 4 years of undergrad and boom, I'm already in. But after doing an internship that I got from the YCI program with UNR Med, they were the ones who basically helped explain and say that, no, you need this many clinical hours, you need this many extracurriculars, you need to be something, a part of your community. So my parents didn't really get that. They just thought, oh, you know, kind of like me, like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, you know, go into med school and then just go ahead and be a doctor and already start working. But just kind of explaining to them and to myself saying, this is what's gonna happen over the next 4 or 5 years after I graduate, and just making it seem a lot more powerful and a lot more real. So that's kind of what I felt from.
Pretty much touching on what Susie already touched on is your path is your path. I mean, this semester I've definitely dealt with the challenge of comparing myself to other pre-med students. You know, we're supposed to work together, and that's definitely what they're, I guess, supporting this semester. You know, working with your peers in pre-med, it's not a challenge. Like, yes, it's pretty competitive getting into pre-med or med school actually, and you know, you don't want to look at it as competition. You want to lean on other pre-med students and stuff like that. That's definitely been my biggest challenge this semester, for just relying on others. Yeah.
I think so many of us have so many different reasons why we went, why we like pursued the goals we did, why we went to higher education, why we kind of are where we are now. And I think it's interesting kind of seeing like kind of wanting to succeed for yourself, but also wanting to succeed for your community, and kind of dispel some of the beliefs sometimes people have. I think I've been lucky enough that I was high achieving in some of my different classes, both in high school and in college, that a lot of times I was lucky enough not to be subjected to the really obvious like racism things you see with some people. But like sometimes the microaggressions, or even just kind of for our community, is very, I'm maybe some of you have experienced it as well, just kind of like the backhanded comments that people would make. I think the one that I remember the most is where someone asked me one time, they're like, "Are you sure you're not Indian? Like, you look too smart to be Mexican." And I was like, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm Mexican, because where my family's from. But it's one of those things where it's kind of like wanting to tell people like, yes, I am Mexican, I am Hispanic, I'm Latino, I can succeed for my community, I'm an example, hopefully for my peers and for my family. Kind of wanting to show people that despite the barriers we faced in the past and the barriers we continue to face, like we're here and we're hoping to succeed and hoping to be great physicians and future providers and future healthcare workers and future anything is kind of part of what DFS has been, kind of showing the students and showing us as well that we can succeed despite the barriers we face.
Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. There's a secret code out there, and I didn't get the manual. I was absent from school that day or something. I did not get that secret code that told you how to do X, Y, and Z to get you to point B. So that's what pathway programs do. That's what they help uncover. And there has to be not only the content and the opportunities for academic success with the rigorous coursework, the dual credit, the exposure to the college campus. You have to layer in the sense of belonging and the networking of the community. Because again, if you have the coolest program on earth, but it doesn't feel good to be there, your retention is really going to struggle. And so we've never had a problem with retention. In fact, it's grown tremendously. And we're going to turn 25 years old next year. And it has just blown me away. I've been part of DFS for 20 years, starting off as a graduate student. But really it boils down to relationships and consistency and just believing that all of these folks are going to give so much back to our communities. And this is just my healthcare group. There's a whole social work group, there's teachers, there's engineers, we have journalists. And it makes me so proud when I can turn on the TV and see one of our news anchors, like that representation in so many job sectors. But for those of you that work at different institutions or believe in pathway programs, you're a big fan of them, you have to kind of sprinkle a little bit of a lot starting at a very young age, and you just keep watering it and you see what sticks. And I know that these folks could talk to you for days about what made them passionate about healthcare. And so I'll leave the last few minutes for you guys to ask any questions of them. But you can see we've got nursing and dentistry, and I invited like a speech path. There's so many different pathways and interests. So any questions from the crowd?
So thank you for being here. I'm really inspired by all of you. And I think that the fact that you're here and you guys are thriving and so thoughtful and reflective, and you have this supportive environment that's really allowing you to be super open. I'm just like blown away by you guys. And Mariluz, I knew you were exceptional always, but this is like so inspiring, right? I kind of want to put you guys on TV and like show the world, right, what's happening at UNR. And so I would encourage you guys to stay for a little bit longer after this, just to hear from various professionals, if you can. And then two, I would encourage you to keep those networks that you're building right now. It's like the people you're surrounded with, they will be your colleagues for life, right? So as you guys become the directors and the CMOs and the heads of departments, you will reach out to your peers that you're standing next to for the rest of your life. And so I just think it's really cool to see you guys and just see that you guys will be sprinkled into the rest of the world. And so I have no questions other than just like pure awe of you guys. So thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. And thank you for putting this presentation together. And also I'm surprised that you didn't use any Amazon boxes.
I stole them from everywhere I was yesterday.
Jorge knows this, and we have had discussions about this type of topics before, while we have been doing when he was doing his rotations with me in clinic. But I'm glad that you brought up the talk about microaggression, the fact that we don't acknowledge burnout enough, that we don't talk about imposter syndrome as much, and that you guys are getting a very early exposure to being able to safely and healthily talk about these things and work through these things since early in your career. This is part of your career. And it is really inspiring to see not only the work that you have already put into, but how that work and your identity continues fueling you forward. Hopefully into each one of the paths that you have set for yourself. Life's on the 3-year curves, okay, and that's going to be true for everybody. But support, not everybody has the support, and I'm really happy to see that. As a practicing physician, support is really important, and being able to cross over and talk and own up struggles, talk about ways how things could be better, and then learning through the struggle, and then utilizing that to be able to teach, create it as a teaching point, will definitely can mean a difference for your experience, can mean a difference also for somebody else. So I don't know if the program has I know it's a mentorship program as well, but I don't know longitudinally if you guys are mentoring yourselves as well. But I think that would be a really good thing. And then as a physician who sees teenagers in clinic all the time, one of the things that I'm really happy about is that and a lot of times these teenagers actually share with me their plans, and we talk about their plans, and they tell me that they really sometimes don't have anybody that they can talk to about a career in science, a career in math. That they don't even they tell me that talking to a school counselor, they feel that it's not worthwhile, and I really appreciate the fact that you guys are showing that there is value in being able to still recommend those things, and not only your proof of that. I agree, definitely we need to start young.
Yes.
I was lucky enough to have the experience of growing up in a household where we had a good bit of physicians in my family. So the prominent part of that was also the service part, because it was a lot of focus towards service. So for me and that, and liking biology were the two things that kind of got me into medical school back in Ecuador. But even if the path is different, the struggles were the same, and a lot of them became a lot closer to what you guys are describing once I came to live in the US. Because the dual language, the being an immigrant, as well as being a Latino, definitely was received differently and was talked about differently, and the microaggressions were a daily thing. So the point that I'm trying to make is that the collaboration, the support, and being able to join in and share in the struggle and recommend people and mentor people to be able to move forward as well would be is a really nice thing to see. And thanks to you two for doing that, and thanks to you guys for talking to us today.
Picture of us before we.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys do this.
Any more questions?
Oh, we got a question right here.
Yeah. I'm a little slower than Dr. Fernandez.
I have a question, because when I went to medical school many years ago, last century, there was this perception that myself and some of my colleagues were in medical school because of a minority program. And I don't know if anybody has ever foisted that microaggression on any of you students. If you have, just kind of raise your hand. So when that would come up, I would tell whoever it was that in my experience, in all the tests that I took in medical school, never once did a professor say, "Oh, you're Latino. Here, let me give you an extra 5 points." It never happened. So that was how I dealt with that microaggression. I just offer that as a suggestion if you run across that, and you probably will at various points. So that was it.
That's a very good point. Yeah. And my other hat is I'm a Washoe County Commissioner. I'm the first Latina elected to the Washoe County Commission. I represent 100,000 people. And I struggled through my PhD sitting in that DFS lounge. They watched me roll around on the carpet and cry and freak out. They've heard my stories running for office and how politically aggressive it can be and the attacks. They've seen all of this. I'm very transparent, and that vulnerability, I think, really helps, because I don't want them to walk into this world thinking that it's going to be easy, because it's not. But I also want them to know that they could fight through anything they put their minds to, and whatever challenge is in front of them. I am not a deficits focused person, even though a lot of that conversation was based on barriers. But it's more about, walking the walk and talking the talk. And so in my work in the county commission, much higher level, I can help leverage and pull those levers for policy. I can think about the communities in mind. And to me, today, the symbolic thing about inviting them to co-present with me is that not only do they get to put this on a resume, I co-presented, I'm part of this organization, they've met some wonderful contacts today. All of that's really important, but now they know and they believe that they can have a seat at the table. And it's really, really hard to believe that. You can hear it, but to believe it is an entirely different thing. So we give them these little doses of that opportunity throughout, from 6th grade all the way on up, even into their career. So give it up for DFS one more time.
Okay, Mariluz.
¿Me vas a sacar? Here, let's get together, closer, yeah. Let's do a short row, little shorties, little shorties, come here, shorties. Okay.
Okay, I want to make sure I see everyone. Okay. Yay. Like, take 300, just like we said.
So we got Renown in the house, Community Health Alliance, we've got some amazing presenters, so thank you for the
Yes,
opportunity.
thank you. Thank you.